endless sky they reign supreme. Voices echoing like whispers in a dream. Night and west ride a storm with words they weave. Bruce joins the tale if his grind grants reprieve. Princes of the universe, their thrones are their lives, spinning tales of wonder from the depths of their lives. Through the shadows of chaos, their voices ignite a beacon of wisdom in the dead of night. From galaxies afar to the mundane grind, no topics too obscure for their curious minds. The laughter cuts the dark like a blade of steel. In the realm of the podcast, the truths are revealed. Princes of the universe, their thrones are their lives, spinning tales of wonder from the depths of their lives. Through the shadows of chaos, their voices ignite a beacon of wisdom in the dead of night. From galaxies afar to the mundane grind, no topics too obscure for the curious minds. The laughter cuts the dark like a blade of steel. In the realm of the podcast, the truths are revealed. Princes of the universe, their thrones are their lives, spinning tales of wonder from the depths of their lives. Through the shadows of chaos, their voices ignite a beacon of wisdom in the dead of night. If Bruce's chains of labor let him break away, he joins the battle of ideas they slay. The trifecta stands strong like a mighty brigade. Their words as legends that will never fade. Princes of the universe, their thrones are their lives, spinning tales of wonder from the depths of their lives. Through the shadows of chaos, their voices ignite a beacon of wisdom in the dead of night.
There can be only one podcast and may be the Prince of the Universe. Hi, folks. I'm Matt.
And I'm Wes.
This is more fun than sitting in a hotel room with 5 other guys.
Wow. And it's not even a casting couch.
No. Sometimes we include the pre-talk. Most times we don't. But that was a pre-talk joke. Friend of ours went to a Comic-Con, and these are all grown men our age. And they're how many? 4?
Men that have grown children.
Yeah. 4 men?
4 men.
1 bed?
Well, 2 beds.
Oh, 2 beds.
1 hotel room.
Sounds like a video I shouldn't be watching at work, but 4 men, 2 hotel beds, and 2 air mattresses.
When people stop being polite and start getting real.
And I don't think
really expensive hotel rooms at Comic-Con.
And I don't think that's something I would enjoy. I mean, we were talking about this back when I was in college, yeah. Nowadays, no.
Yeah, it's not spring break. When you're bringing sleep apnea machines and your own pillow, you probably shouldn't have that many dudes in a room.
Ew, okay, on that note, we're talking about the last 4 episodes.
Dark Side of the Con.
That's the other one. We'll bring them in.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness. Anyway, episode 7 is Truth, Lies, and Billy Jack Haynes. How well do you know Billy Jack Haynes? I thought this was a very interesting episode.
Billy Jack, he has done a lot of shoot interviews.
A lot.
yes.
I could tell from just that video. He does everything.
And the first one was actually pretty good, and the rest were more sensationalized.
Okay, so you think the most truth was told in the very first one he did, and
Yes.
then as the road kept going, it seemed kind of obvious he kept adding on, because I loved how, I can't remember, he was talking to a CIA officer or whatever, FBI officer about a case,
Yeah,
and then suddenly he
he's
made
just
the
the
case
kind of
his
guy
own.
that, like, if you hung out with him and you knew him his whole life, he's the guy that caught a fish that always was bigger every year after he told that story.
Yeah, bigger than yours, right?
Well, just you were there and you remember what happened, but he sensationalizes everything. Another guy that doesn't have a lot of credibility because of his word, but he was very credible in the physical sense outside the wrestling business and inside the ring. Loose
Yeah.
cannon,
Yeah.
big time guy that wore out his welcome everywhere he worked, but looked like a star.
Looked like $1 million.
Looked like a real tough dude.
Seemed to be the nice guy. This is the guy that went out to pizza, they said, with the fans or whatnot, right?
He rarely worked as a heel until later in his career.
Yeah, later on in his career.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, just really went out there and just went out. I mean, you had to stay in character the whole time too, I guess. But I guess he just seemed to be back in the early days. Real people person, got the crowd behind him.
Well, his story is very. His first shoot interview talks about his dad being blind and like all this physical, sexual abuse he went through. Growing up in Oregon, so he's kind of a homegrown talent in that Oregon territory that at one point was pretty hot,
Right.
like most of them were. They all had their little runs. But he quickly went to Florida, the Carolinas. He went to New York. He went to Dallas. I mean, he checked off everywhere you could go to get more seasoning so you're a bigger star. But he couldn't maintain it because his temperament was like a lot of things. It's one, if you can't be, your word doesn't mean anything to promoters, but you're also dangerous. It's just too many red flags.
Now, whenever you see a digression in a character in a person, because this is someone, by the way, in the episode, he confesses to a murder. Oh no, he knew some type of murder. Like he didn't do it, but he saw the bodies.
Supposedly.
He hid the body. Supposedly, allegedly, all allegedly, and
Yeah.
stuff, which turned out to be inconclusive evidence. They don't really know if he did or not. It's
Well, Jim Cornette said it didn't happen, so I'm going to say it didn't happen.
Okay, didn't. I mean, that's fine. I don't believe it either. But I'm just saying, why attach yourself to that in the first place?
In his very first shoot interview, he talks about being a drug runner, being a mule.
Yeah.
So
And that probably was true.
I definitely believe that. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of guys that lifted weights, that their body was their money,
Mm-hmm.
regardless if it was American Gladiators, pro wrestling, pro bodybuilding, you name it. Those guys were doing a lot of
Yeah.
shady stuff to maintain their habit, like most people are that have a dependency on something that is bigger than what they can handle.
Exactly. Now, the question I have for you, is this a guy who is just a pathological liar over time or took too many shots to the head? Because we know that could also
I definitely think it's
damage.
both.
I think it's a little bit of both.
I definitely think.
Because one thing we haven't mentioned that they mentioned in the video is that he killed his wife.
Correct.
During this, he is actually standing in a prison waiting for his trial to begin. They actually put him, he agreed to come on camera. I think it was, again, just because he can't help himself. He just wants to get the attention.
Yeah, I got to get my
You know,
fix.
he kept looking at his lawyer. Can I mention that? Sorry, smiling. Can't mention that. All nice and everything. And now his trial is set to go on later on this year, I believe.
I think so.
And I don't think I think he thinks he's going to get away with it, but he's probably not.
I
assuming.
think he's probably wrestled his last match as far as freedom.
Yeah,
He's
that's
going to be
kind
in
of
the
the
Crowbar
case.
Motel going
I
forward.
think in the video there, or maybe I read about this afterwards. I can't remember, but it was he's claiming, oh, well, it was a mercy kill. He said, oh, sorry, you're not gonna
Right,
get
like, I don't-
she was hurting herself. She wanted me to kill her or whatnot, or she
Yeah.
was just going down the road. She didn't want to live anymore like this.
in
That's not
some
gonna-
situations you can understand that the the circle of life for all of us. How much do you want to not be who you were? But if you're going through that, probably Billy Jack Haynes is not the person who's going to be the voice of reason.
True, very true. Yeah. All right. So overall, though, I thought it was a great episode.
It's very entertaining.
Very entertaining.
Billy Jack Haynes he is somebody who could have done more.
Definitely.
I don't necessarily know he could have done more for Vince, but he definitely could have done more. Definitely, if he would have stayed with the Crockett's, because he was at the first Starrcade, he could have been in Dusty's stable of baby faces.
Mm-hmm.
He was just as physically impressive as a Road Warrior.
Yeah.
And that may offend people. Hell, I don't know. But, I mean, he was a pretty legit dude. But his temperament, you can't go in there and threaten to beat up the promoter because your payoff is bad and expect to work for many
expect
people.
to keep working. So, yeah, he kind of damaged what legacy that could have happened with his name.
His legacy is him damaging it. Yes.
Yes, that's exactly right. The next one's called Blood, Fire, and the original Sheik. There's an original before the Iron. At first, I thought it was about the Iron Sheik because he had recently passed away. I thought, oh, they're doing one about the Iron Sheik now. No, it was the original Sheik. Now,
Yep.
I knew nothing. I knew about the original Sheik. I knew nothing about him. I never studied him. I never looked him up. I never saw any behind-the-scenes things on him. So this was all new to me.
Yep.
This was all brand new. One of the, original heels, the foreigner concept that we hate him, the thing that's been done over and being done to this day. But he was the one that kind of, there was always one, but he was the one that kind of capitalized the most on it.
Well, I think
like.
he was kind of like anybody that's watched these is a lot like Fritz in Dallas. He bought the territory and became the star. And that's a big thing in wrestling. Bill Watts did that for Mid-South, but Eddie Farhat, I believe is his real name. He capitalized on it and did extremely good. It's just funny when you watch these, you realize they'll have these 3 to 4 year runs, and then it just goes so fast. That to me was the story of the Sheik, was how his gimmick, he did that for so long, but you can only watch that if nobody can beat you.
Then and that's what they said. No one could beat him, and then people just stopped coming.
Yeah, it's like,
because
well,
what's
then
the
never
point?
mind.
You hated. You want someone to beat him. You gotta lose.
You have to get your comeuppance.
You gotta get your comeuppance. You gotta make the fans happy. And the thing is that's the thing that gets me back and still today, I guess. But some people just can't see it, because especially these people who are booking the shows. Oh, they're booking it. Well, I want to be the star. I never want to get lost. Man, you ought to see that. No, it's great for them to beat me, and then we got the rematch, and then give them a few wins. Then I get a few wins.
I understand not building it up, but you have to be willing to do the honors to further what's next, even if it's 6 months to get to what's next. But if you never get to what's next, it ends.
Yeah.
And then you're left with
That
all
train
of these
ends.
like possibilities or what could haves and should haves and all
But it's
that
just
kind of stuff.
it's just their own arrogance and pride that stop them. But if they really want, because all they're trying to get that money. Everyone's trying to get that money, as much money through the door.
And then it hurts
And
their
you-
credibility,
but yeah, it
because they
hurts-
can't pay their guys anymore. So
Yeah,
no one
the
comes
whole
to
thing
work.
goes- yeah.
So your whole production goes from A-listers to, like him saying, Bruno said, "Oh, I won't be back."
Yeah.
You
You screwed over a top
Yeah.
talent who's
Yeah.
a big draw, and that's the thing. You just keep hurting. You just keep shooting yourself in the foot.
credibility. All of these wrestling stories are about credibility. If you have no credibility, you won't make it.
Well, they keep talking about how he was building up the next hero, and the big and the box office draw was big. Everyone kept coming in every night to see who would beat him. Well, after a while, you think, okay, now I'm going to let this guy win, and then there's going to be a big match of me trying to get it back. The money would have kept coming in. That's the whole time I was watching. It's like, oh my goodness, this guy could have had money coming in till the day he died. You know, if he would have just done a little give and take with the belt a little bit. And
Well,
kinda,
even not even so much to me, it's not to the day you die. I think a lot of these guys
Well, you know what I mean.
could have made it to Vince. A lot of people say Vince destroyed the territories. Our good friend Heath would say that. But most of the territories destroyed themselves, unfortunately.
Should we bring Heath in here to explain his position about why Vince killed the...
I think he's already done that. He's already
Okay.
penalized the audience of 38 people that listened to this show once.
Okay. All right. But I don't think the Iron Sheik got any inspiration from him. Was there a...
I
they
think
didn't
it was
mention
more
it.
of just a Muslim
It was just
character.
Yeah, we know the Sheik, so why don't you be the Iron Sheik? There wasn't like any big connection. Like,
Vern Gagne's wife came up with that because he was already from Iran.
yeah, why
so
not?
it's like, gosh, you're not doing this is hurting you more than doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So Sheik, good lesson, good history. I like they're
the
going back.
nephew, his nephew is Sabu, who recently passed.
Oh,
so
that's right. Yeah, and Sabu was on it talking about
hard to be more in a trendsetter than Sabu, one of
And-
the
and
most
the-
important people in wrestling in the 90s.
And the funny thing is, when they were doing those behind the scene, the ECW videos, the life and times, and Sabu was talking about he learned from his uncle, the Sheik. I thought he meant the Iron Sheik for the longest because I didn't know there was an original Sheik. And so I would always get Sabu mixed up and think, oh, so he worked with the... But, I mean, even the Sheik was working out there till he was old with Sabu in that, what is it, that match where he set himself on fire?
Yeah, the flaming.
Oh,
and they
my
all-
goodness.
the-
And then, like,
they ate the oxygen up and they had to like roll out.
oh,
and
my
burn
goodness. And he was the
themselves.
last one of the last two out.
Well, yeah,
and,
he's an old man and they're trying to roll around.
and he had all those heavy degree burns and everything. I mean, and he was, what, in his 60s? He was up there.
Probably.
And had like bad degree
If not
burns
60s,
and stuff
he
like
was
that.
definitely late 50s.
I mean, that is old school. That was, I ate a bag
Well,
of
that's
rusty
your-
nails for breakfast this morning.
That's your last payday. I hope I don't die in the ring.
Guess so. Lighting that sucker on fire, but that was pretty impressive. I remember seeing that. But anyway, again, another good episode. The next one, so strange that they can't. The Scream Queen Daphne. I'm shocked that they picked this person. Not that the story wasn't uninteresting, but this is from the dying days of WCW.
Very much the dying days.
And by the way, we were watching during this time.
Yeah, for sure.
I have zero memory of Daphne.
Well,
I have
memory.
zero memory of her. But you'd switch back during commercials
Yeah.
of WWF.
Well, I
to
think
watch
I think she was untapped potential for sure.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So you remember, like the whole time I was watching, because I knew the characters, I knew who she was acting with. I was like, I was just stunned. I had no recollection of this.
So
girl.
much of the dying parts of WCW, you watched it because you go, why are they putting this on? These are so much not ready for prime time.
Well, remember, this is one of the things
talents.
we would talk about at the store too, or past the time of the store. And you say, what is WCW
But I think
doing?
that's the problem with wrestling and why women's wrestling has taken off so much in the past 20 years is because it was so much guys that shouldn't be on TV. And Russo was famous for putting women on TV, but I think she was excellent. I'm not saying she was
So
a skilled ring technician,
Right.
But for a
She could hold her
character,
own.
She was great. She was so different.
And she started off just as a bit, an acting bit, wasn't even supposed to be wrestling, got into it and said, hey, I really like this thing. Let
they
me
say.
learn.
Yeah. And here's the thing, if you get into the wrestling business like that, you're getting into the extracurricular parts of the wrestling business, the fun stuff, where, hey, we get to be 18 tonight, and we're going to be 18 tomorrow night, we're going to be 18
Yep.
tomorrow next weekend,
Yeah.
and that's probably a lot of what led to her demise. Is the extracurricular side of the business.
Oh, I mean, obviously that's got to be the case there. But see, like I said, I didn't know about her scream. I didn't know about her character. I didn't know about her storyline, which is kind of wild because, like I said, we were at that point, even during the dying days, you were still switching back.
I found
you
it
think I would have seen her
interesting
once.
that they didn't talk more about her lawsuit with TNA that she had because she got hurt in the ring.
Oh, so she
severely.
did.
Oh yeah, yeah. There was a
Well, no, they talked about is that the one with the center of the toys that she could sell instead?
right, but you know, TNA was famous for a lot of that stuff. Chris Candido got hurt in their ring and he died shortly thereafter. They have done a lot of stuff that somehow they were able to get by.
So a lot of shifty stuff at TNA back in the day.
Yeah, total nonstop accidents. Because they had a lot of stuff happen that
Wow.
they somehow got away with. And maybe it's because so much of it is in Florida. And, you know, Florida is kind of the wild west.
So they give her payday. Does that help Daphne? I think by this point it didn't matter what was going to happen to her at this point.
No, well, yeah, I think she.
I mean,
was-
obviously
she
the injury
hadn't-
made a big deal because then she couldn't do the things she loved. And
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, it rattled her. You know, when your brain is. I shouldn't say, you know. We don't know what it's like.
no.
I know what it's like to be 47 years old and think you're 27 years old in the gym and you realize those days are long behind me.
Okay.
You know,
So,
so
yeah.
I'm sure having that feeling consistently is pretty damaging. So I think it's a sad story. I think it's a good story that they told it. I think that there's more stories of that for some reason aren't told because that's much more relatable than Tony Atlas's story, unfortunately.
No, I found like I said, Tony Atlas felt like a retread for me.
Right.
So I obviously enjoyed Daphne's storyline. That she killed herself during the pandemic. There's a lot of depression going on. There's a lot of shelter at home. Don't see anyone, and that isolation is obviously not what a lot of people needed, especially someone in her condition
Absolutely.
who had the mood swings up and down, and it is very tragic. That's something that happened. So definitely a tragic and definitely a dark side of the ring there. Did not know Mick Foley was a friend. Did not know there was a heartwarming moment where, you know, she had the special needs girl.
Yep.
They did a wrestling match. She taught her and let her beat her, let her pin
Yep.
her in a little local match.
Yep.
And that was at the quote unquote height of Daphne's career. Like Daphne was doing either Glow or
I don't
whatever
know.
else.
I think that was the.
Dying Day. Okay.
Yeah, it was definitely not height by any means.
Okay.
She was.
But that was still nice.
No, I
So,
agree.
Nice
Yeah,
gesture
I think
to
that,
do.
and I think that.
Obviously, still a known name because didn't the girl say that was her favorite wrestler and that's how they met?
Well,
No, you think not? Okay.
I don't know. I mean,
You think it's all total
everybody has a favorite wrestler.
BS and a lie?
Yeah.
Okay. I think someone like that, special needs, probably would have latched on to someone like that.
Possibly so.
Possibly so.
I have
But
some
either
special
way,
needs
that's
issues
fine.
like
You
that.
want to hate on that special moment, that's fine. You can Freddie Fam your way into this one. So go ahead. Freddie Fam your way out of it. So
You mean die of a tragic disease?
well, that's called Dark Side of the Balls. There is what that is. So we're
Yeah.
treading water on that one, Wesley. But anyway, the Daphne thing I felt was interesting for someone that I never even knew existed. Even in TNA, didn't even know. And I was watching TNA during that time. Like I remember the Abyss Mankind match, but somehow Daphne's whole character had been scrubbed from my mind. So
I guess that was my takeaway watching it was like, man, TNA kind of got away with, lack of a better term, murder.
So you think there should be a Dark Side of the Ring based on TNA?
Yes,
Bring it. That'd be a good one. I'd love to
Yes.
see that.
because TNA has lasted so long and has almost died and kicked out at 2.5. Mm-hmm. It had so much shady behind the scenes stuff. I think it would be a good 3-part series
Oh, 3-part series. Well,
for sure.
the Dark Side of the Ring's needing some new material, so go after TNA.
Yep.
There you go. They're still around, aren't they?
Yes.
Maybe that's why they're not going after them. perhaps.
Possibly
Fear
so.
of a lawsuit.
Possibly.
Yeah, besmirching their name, so to speak, slander,
Yeah.
mayhap. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right, so the finale, which I'm so confused by this. Becoming Muhammad Hassan, only because I don't feel like this is a Dark Side of the Ring episode.
Yeah.
I don't. It was like what was the other guy? Tugboat, Avalanche. What was his name?
Earthquake.
Earthquake. I felt like that was, oh, sad he passed away so young, but
Yeah.
that's not Dark Side of the Ring. This is the second episode I think they've ever done where I thought, that's not really Dark Side of the Ring.
It's
to
more
me.
thinking outside the box, I think.
I guess. Now, I remember Muhammad Hassan. I remember his character and everything. And, of course, he's taking a page from the Sheik, It would have been nice if they started with the original Sheik and ended with becoming Muhammad Hassan. The old and the new.
Bookend it.
Bookend it there, but they didn't. They didn't want to do that. Didn't think about it. But this is someone who just had the wrong gig at the wrong time, and
Yeah,
this is that perfect storm.
The way his career ended was so bizarre.
Yeah, on top of the world, top billing, top heat. Something happens.
Working with Taker.
Yeah, working with Taker, working with the big wigs, getting the big box. Being hated on by all the veterans who feel like he didn't pay his dues.
He had a WrestleMania moment with Hogan, of course.
Yeah, but it's not his. But it's not his decision. It was Vince's decision to push the guy to the moon. So he feels like he's caught in a crossroads. The guy himself seems a very nice guy.
Yeah.
At first I took it from this angle, but yes, I agree. Later on, the angle was wrong, the direction we went to. But what was I going to do? I was doing as I was told.
Well, yeah. I mean, anybody that blames talent, I don't know who your boss is, but the next time you can tell your boss, I'm not doing that, let me know how it works out for you.
Yeah, for real. Everyone said, oh, you should cross the line or whatnot. And I don't know what his attitude was before then because I wasn't reading the little dirt sheets back then about who was who behind the scenes and stuff like that. I just remember thinking, oh, another character.
I'm sure he felt like, man, I'm in a really good spot.
Yeah. I just keep saying yes. I'm still getting the push.
Right.
So don't rock the boat.
Yeah, who knows where this is going to go.
But that you couldn't reinvent him even afterwards. I get it because he was so recognizable. But still, you go back.
I don't agree with that.
Grow the hair, wear a mask. There's ways you can change a character.
Totally, you could totally do it.
I mean, William Regal changed overnight from the man, he's a man, the lumberjack, to William Regal with a tux
That
on.
was definitely a short-lived thing. But I think that they could.
But that's what
definitely
he transitioned to.
They definitely could have done something with him. I think that Vince's inner circle basically said,
you got to drop this guy.
Not worth it. We got 60 other guys we can do something with. Let him go.
Is it not worth it because of all the advertisers pulling out, the anger, the bad press? What is it that says we can't do it?
Yeah, I think you have to. All of this stuff you have to kind of look at in the bubble of what's going on in time. No different than we say, oh well, you couldn't say that nowadays. The WWF had so many different peaks and valleys. I don't know what part of what year all that even happened now, so I'm ill prepared. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
But you've got all that Benoit stuff
Mm-hmm.
at or around that same time frame.
Yeah.
And Vince was public at that point, had been public for probably 10 years, something like that. And so he is so in a different mindset of he is big business now. So, nobody tells Vince McMahon what to do, pal. But someone can say, hey, Vince, it's just not worth it. Why push this guy when we can just pay him to stay at home and we'll just move on.
Yeah.
And if he loves the business, he'll go to Japan or he'll go to Total Nonstop Accidents and he'll figure it out.
But in the end, little happy ending, became a teacher, loves it, loves what he does. Interviewed Maven, of all people, for that episode, which I thought was kind of wild.
Well, I would rather you interview Maven than a big star because Maven has a better idea of the WWF machine at a lower level.
Do you watch his channel? I've watched his channel a couple. I've
watched a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know how much of a story he has that he hasn't told, but yeah, I think that if it's really about on these shows is how honest are you gonna be? Like, how done with the wrestling business are you, to be honest?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like any relationship when it comes to an end. Do you really tell them? Now, Lord knows I've been on the other end of this, and I have been told the path to get where they want me to go.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
And those are conversations you don't forget.
Good deal. So overall, the season 6, Dark Side of the Ring, final thoughts, Wesley?
I think Daphne's your sleeper episode.
It was surprisingly good. Yeah. The whole time I was going, why are we doing this? And I said, okay, that was pretty good. So that was a
It's
good one.
very topical for this because
Yeah.
so much of her life happened in the not. She died recently, and she didn't die of. Well, she died because was older and all the bumps. She died because she took her own life.
Yeah.
Because she was in the terrible time of 2020 where
Yeah.
everything was so upside down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
And you were told to despair. And so you're isolated and no one else telling you, all you're hearing is scary news and you
Oh,
don't know
my
what
God.
to believe. So it's just a bad time. But
Yeah.
either way, all right, folks, well, let us know what you thought of the last 4 episodes of Dark Side of the Ring, Season 6, and we'll see you next time on Princes of the Universe.